Welcome to Campus Curiosity, the podcast about research at Utah Tech University.
Each episode, we explore the projects and people pushing ideas forward.
This is Blazing Research Across Disciplines. Awesome! So welcome everyone to our second episode of Campus Curiosity. I'm Amy Need. I'm a digital media student, and I am here with some crazy cool geologists. They're going to talk about their research, and we're just going to dive right in. So if you want to introduce yourself.
My name's Alex Ty. I'm an assistant professor of geology.
I'm Alexis Casas. I'm a geology student here at Utah Tech.
And I'm Ella Lewis. I am a geology major here at Utah Tech as well.
Perfect. Awesome. So I'm going to just kind of dive in here. If you guys want to talk to me a little bit about your research and, something you learned along the way.
So broadly, the project is kind of about, it's in the Andes. What's special about the Andes is that it's this very high and very broad region, right? It's underlain by extremely thick continental crust. Despite how thick the crust is, there are still certain things that we don't fully understand about, why is it so high, basically? Why is it so high and why is it such a broad area? So we have, what's called the Central Andean Plateau. People also call it the Altiplano, and then we're working the southern part of that, which is the Puna Plateau. We basically just have that and Tibet are kind of the modern examples of these, really high elevation plateaus. There are sites of, an incredible amount of like plate tectonic convergence typically, and compressional deformation of continental crust. And, they're so large that they can have an influence on, even like regional or global climate, right? By affecting, wind circulation patterns and things like that. And a lot of other things as well. But so anyway, ultimately the research question is just like, why is this part of the Andes so high? When did it become high? And what are the sort of the geologic processes that are building it up? And is it still being built up?
Yeah, absolutely. And the Andes are in Argentina and Central America.
Part of them. Yeah. I mean, so they span the entire western margin of the South American continent.
Yeah.
So like from Colombia, and you could argue that they're even, kind of continuous with, there's like, there's a volcanic arc. So like a chain of volcanoes in Central America as well. But then south from there, you get into the Andes Mountains through, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Bolivia, Argentina. And
absolutely.
Chile. So it's huge. I mean, it's actually, I think if you measure it, it's the longest mountain belt on Earth as well.
Wow. Okay. So is that why people study it? Is it because of the length of the Andes? Or if you want to like compare how high the Andes are compared to mountain ranges around here, like
they're taller.
Yeah.
Way taller, yeah.
like by how much would you say? Well, how would you be able to frame that?
Yeah. I mean, so the Andes has the tallest peak that is outside of the Himalaya, among other things. The area that we work in is mostly around 4,000 meters elevation, which is like 13,000 feet or so. And in that area, the peaks, most of which are like active volcanoes, could be as high as, definitely more than 5,000 meters, potentially as much as 6. So they're like, they're taller than Mount Whitney by a significant margin, which is the tallest mountain within the contiguous U.S.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Pretty too big.
Yeah, pretty high up there.
Yeah. And again, like part of the thing that's so interesting about them is just that it's such a large region that's so high, right? It's not just like a single peak, but you can somehow like detach basically, almost the entire lower crust and mantelithosphere, and that just sort of falls down into the mantle. And that's an important part of generating the high elevation in a place like the Andes, right? Because with this process, you're basically, selectively removing the denser parts of the lithosphere. And so what you're left over with is more buoyant than it would
More
be
buoyant,
otherwise.
which makes it rise.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
And the analogy that I like to use for it is like if you've ever seen a photograph of like like a cargo ship that does not have its cargo in it. They look almost comical because they just are sticking so far out of the water.
You're like, is that a boat? Is it just like floating on water right now?
Yeah, and that's kind of essentially what's happening with this process, right? Is it's like sort of the dense, heavy material that's weighing down the lithosphere is removed,
Wow.
and what you're left with is just this really buoyant top part.
It's like styrofoam in water.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
So how is those denser parts removed? Is it a naturally occurring thing, or what's happening?
Oh yeah. It is. We don't really know completely how it's happening, but I think kind of the prevailing and certainly like the simplest models are that it essentially like drips off. Okay, and so that this is this is a process that. This is a drip that forms over tens of millions of years. Well, maybe not tens, but millions.
Slow
of
drip.
years.
Yeah.
Slow drip. An extremely slow drip is how it is removed.
Slow drip coffee. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. This would be a very strong
coffee. Espresso like.
Yes.
Wow,
Little
that's
stale,
interesting. So
perhaps.
did the both of you also go to Argentina and study this, or what was your experience with the research?
Yes. So both Ella and I joined Dr. Tai on two different field seasons to Argentina, two very similar locations where we were collecting samples. We were also doing a lot of geotectonic mapping, and we were looking at a lot of sedimentology, like stratigraphy, which are the layers that you see. Here in southern Utah, you see a lot of stratigraphy. Like these are Class A sort of examples of sedimentology, just like layers building on top of each other. And so what I thought was super interesting was that in the area that we were working in, it was very, very similar to southern Utah, actually, like the red rocks. It just looked really,
Oh yeah.
it looked like home almost, which I thought was really cool.
It's like I never left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're like, Argentina, and then I show up and it's
Yeah.
my backyard.
And you're like, oh, rocks. I've seen those.
The only
yeah,
difference is it's a lot more hard to breathe.
Yeah. So because of the elevation.
Oh, yeah.
So we looked at a lot of those those layers. Like I said, we collected samples. We took a couple of water samples as well. And what we're doing on this smaller scale is we're looking at the ages of the minerals that are within those samples, and then we're sort of putting the pieces together and saying, okay, so if this sample has this age and this sample is earlier, like what had happened first, or how did this get here? So what we did more recently was we actually climbed the geo time scale through Argentina. And so we looked at what we know had happened first. We looked at all the rocks that were deposited first, and then we looked at how they traveled through space and through time.
Whoa.
So yeah, I thought that was super interesting.
Time traveling.
Yeah, actually. It's pretty
And
cool.
and you mentioned that it was hard to breathe. Like, how was it being out there every day, like in the Andes with the high elevation, and did you have any impacts from it, or what was that experience like?
Well, for me, there was a few impacts. One of the main things is when I was there, being summer of this year, it was winter in Argentina. So it's a lot colder. So just naturally, it's going to be harder to breathe in general. But because we were at 11,000 to about 13,000 feet above sea level versus here, which is about 2,000 to 3,000, it was a lot more difficult to breathe. I personally did not have a lot of complications with it, but Dr. Tai had a
tough.
hard
Dr.
time.
Ty.
Yeah, I know.
I want to hear
I don't know
it.
if it's I'm getting older or
Yeah.
yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or if I'm just, a wimp. That's a possibility as well.
No, I feel like our bodies get so used to a certain elevation. And then when you jump into something like that, it's like, whoa. We should probably get more into the research part of
Yeah,
things.
sure.
Yeah.
Like
Now that we have
the
background
why.
covered.
I know. Now we know
Yeah.
we're in the Andes. We're out there in Argentina, which is so cool to be able to go and do that as a student, by the way. Like,
Yeah, for sure.
that is amazing. Or your parents are probably so proud. They're
Yeah.
like,
Oh yeah.
Hi, Mom.
that is so cool. Genuinely. I'm like, man,
Yeah,
that's cool.
I will say my parents were a little bit concerned for me. I'm like, I sort of just come home and I'm like,
same.
hey, like I'm going to South America for 3 weeks and I
like,
won't
"What?"
have service.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like gonna be camping probably, but also not. And then it's just like me and my professor and one other student researcher.
Oh yeah.
And my parents are like, wait, what are you doing?
Wait, what?
Yeah, and then I'm like, I'm leaving in 2 months, by the way. You know what I mean? And so it kind of like, obviously they trust me and they're like, okay, Alexis, if this is what you really want to do. So yeah, they were a little bit worried. To be fair, I was a little bit worried too. I've never really experienced anything like this. I've never gone to South America. And then the first time it's like the Puno Plateau. And we're like in rural Argentina and we're like dealing with these like super itty bitty tiny like pueblitos, like these tiny little towns where
So cool.
there's just like a population of like
Two.
like 15 people.
Yeah. So what drew all of you guys into doing this research? Like, what was your why, like individually?
Wow.
I've been doing research on this for a long time.
Yeah. For me, the why, I mean, I don't know. I got started, as an undergrad, I didn't really know what I wanted to major in. And I took a wonderful geology class with a really engaging professor. And then, I was hooked basically. And I already liked the outdoors and I was kind of, approaching whatever, thinking about stuff that I'm sure all of you are thinking about, just sort of like, what am I going to do after I graduate? And I was kind of like, well, if I did geology, maybe I could do like a job where I'm working outside and stuff like that. And that sounded very attractive. So that was kind of the first step into it. But then I, one of the courses that geology programs typically require is a course on geologic mapping, which is like, you go out to an area and it's all about, kind of measuring and documenting the spatial relationships between different rock units and what that can tell you about how the area kind of formed and evolved over time. And then I just love the geologic mapping component. And basically, like, I don't know. For me, it's a very special and unique activity because it's like, you're going out into this very, often like a very sparsely populated, kind of wild landscape. And the idea is that you, through careful observation and documentation, can come to understand the geologic history of this area in a way that that no one really has before, right? That's the goal, is you're doing it in these new areas for research. And I really like that, and I wanted to do more of that. So then I did a PhD, and then I started working in the Andes when I was a postdoc, which is like sort of a research position that you do after you do a PhD. And it's working in Argentina is great. As a PhD student, I worked in the Republic of Georgia and Azerbaijan, which I think would be a little bit of a harder sell to take undergrads to at this point with the geopolitical situation occurring in that area. Argentina is great.
Wow. Absolutely. Ella, if you want to.
Well, I was kind of in a similar boat where geology was kind of, I wanted to work outside. I didn't want to necessarily have a job where I sat down all the time. I wanted to go and I wanted to do something. Originally coming here, I was just going to get my associate's degree and then move on and go into anthropology. But I had a lot here that kept me here, and geology was very, very similar to what I wanted to do anyways. And so I just continued doing the geology course, and it wasn't until a little bit later that I started taking some of Dr. Ty's classes. And I found the research very, very fascinating. I thought it's just really cool.
Yeah,
Whoa.
absolutely.
Yeah.
A little strobe moment.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Little DJ moment. Yeah, as for me, I was in a very similar boat to Dr. Ty and Lewis here. I was also in my early college years, and I was trying to figure out, what I wanted to do. And I also took an intro to geology course as one of my sciences, and I had a very engaging professor. Shout out Janice.
Janice.
Yeah. I feel like she's like the Utah Tech version of Miss Frizzle. She's awesome. She's very awesome.
Wow.
And so
Does she have cool earrings?
probably. She has really cool hair.
Yeah. That'll do it.
Yeah, so we would go to field trips all around southern Utah, and I just thought it was super awesome being able to, really just take a look at the rocks and see what's around you and be able to like tell the story of how they got there.
Yeah.
Or like the geologic processes of
Absolutely.
what happened. And the idea of having a hybrid kind of career where you're out in the field, but you're also, like back home or doing lab work seemed really, really nice to me as well. And so when I found out about this research opportunity with Dr. Ty, it was paid. It was undergrad research, which is, hard to come by, actually, especially paid undergrad research, not just for credits or anything. And previously I'd worked with other college students doing, their like PhD research in like Rhode Island at the University of Rhode Island. And they were doing like reconstruction of like salt marshes. And I was like, hey, I remember that I love doing like field research. And so I applied, and Dr. Ty took me along with him on me and our colleague Aiden Hardy to Argentina, and yeah, I'm super, super grateful for this experience.
Yeah.
Especially seeing the post work that we do after collecting the samples as well. Earlier this semester, back in August, Dr. Ty and I went to the University of Arizona, and we took advantage of their machinery and their labs and stuff, and they so graciously helped us and allowed us to look at our zircons that we've collected from Argentina. And it was just so rewarding and satisfying to sit down, stare at the computer and be like, okay, so this is from this site, and this is what this shows us of this area that I had visited like, a year ago or like a season ago or 2 seasons ago. So yeah, that was the draw for me, and I can say that I'm like fully in it now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And it's something really cool that you can take with you as a student. You're going to apply this to your career. You can just send your Google Scholar link and say, hey,
Yeah.
look at what I did.
Yeah, maybe someone
yeah.
will cite me.
Few seasons in Argentina. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, super awesome.
There's a mic there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, also just to highlight,
Yeah.
like with any, students that I work with, like including you guys, I mean, I really like to have people kind of like staying engaged beyond just like the field component, because it's, so much of like modern geology, there's a very significant like lab and kind of analytical component. And so
Yeah.
what we've been doing a lot of for this project is dating this mineral called zircon. This is like same thing.
What is zircon?
It's
What is the
Zircon.
mysterious
it's this,
zircon?
yeah. It's the
Tell
same
me.
thing that
Tell me now.
that fake diamonds for engagement
Oh,
rings are.
so zircon.
Yeah.
The
Exactly.
zircon.
But for us, they're better than that because
Yeah.
I
Seriously.
think they're even better than diamonds because
yeah.
They tell us so much.
you can date them. They're
Yeah.
very, very good for uranium lead radiogenic age dating. And basically, the way this is used in like a modern context is that you can take a scoop full of sand, most sand from anywhere throughout the world. Zircon, it's very, very like physically and chemically robust. I mean, that's part of the reason why people use it as a substitute for diamond. It does not weather and it does not really break apart very easily.
So could you tell us about your NSF-funded research and how it supports and engages students at Utah Tech University?
Yeah. I mean, so, and we obviously have to make a huge, acknowledgement for NSF for funding the study. They provided, NSF provides like large grants, and this is how science is done in the U.S. is like, most of it is coming from NSF funding. So they're an incredibly important organization, right? And so I applied for this grant. It's a collaborative research grant, so we actually have, I'm the PI here at Utah Tech, and there are collaborators at Georgia Tech, and then at Purdue University.
And sorry to interrupt, but it's pretty prestigious to be awarded an NSF grant. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say.
Humble guy.
So you wrote that's pretty incredible.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, this is,
Yeah,
I mean, it's like, this is where like the exciting stuff is happening,
Yeah.
right? It's like, this is really the cutting edge stuff in the field. And so like, yeah, it's great that we have that funding. And so basically, a big part of it, for a school like Utah Tech, I mean, NSF typically wants to sort of, do things that will kind of like enhance the value of an institution. And for
Absolutely.
us, like obviously it's a undergrad school with a big focus on kind of like applied experiences for students and that kind of thing. And in the sciences, that is, doing a research project. And so a significant portion of the funding goes to like, paying for student salaries and travel to the field areas and stuff like that. We also did, we got some funding through the grant to bring a bunch of students from Utah Tech down for just like a class, sort of a study
Wow.
abroad class that we did this summer.
Fun.
And that was great. That was a lot of fun.
How many students went?
There were 5 students from Utah Tech, and
Wow.
then there were a bunch of, Argentinian students as well who were at like my collaborators' institutions down
Cool.
there.
Being able to work with other students, from a completely different country and
Yeah.
being able to like connect on something that you didn't really know that you could connect to someone with.
Yeah.
I guess what we're doing as researchers is we're sort of just contributing to the overall question that every other geologist that's interested in this kind of thing has of like, what's causing these mountains to be so high, you know what I mean? And our research is really just a drop in the bucket, I think.
yeah.
It's very good research.
It's the
and
golden
it's
drop
very
in the bucket.
yeah. It's I feel like we contribute a lot, but there's also a lot to be discovered about specifically the Puna Plateau as well. And that's why, like I mentioned earlier, it was so interesting to see what other students, local students from Mendoza, from the University of Mendoza and the University of Salta, thought of what we were researching as well, and getting their input as well. But as one student researcher, I just write the figure descriptions. the geochrons,
Well, and it's like, I think that I do think there's something to that, right? Which is like, you kind of, you're reckoning with the fact that science is this massive community enterprise, right? And it's like so much broader than just what one individual person is doing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I think there's something really powerful about that. And that's kind of, I think there's a value in that too, right? Because it's like, I think as an undergrad, you know, you're sort of like, you know, you can be very successful as long as you're, you know, getting good grades and stuff like that. But, you know, I think there's this transition into sort of like, you know, I get a little annoyed with when people call it like the real world, but
The real world.
like, I don't think it's any more real necessarily, but, you know, it's like, there's this, at some point you're sort of exiting your training and, you know, and I think this is one kind of manifestation of that, right? Where it's like, you know, you've learned this stuff in the classroom, right? But then you're sort of engaging with it like on a real level. And part of that is just the amazing, you know, expertise and stuff that exists across such a huge group of people and all this incredible work that's already been done. And you're sort of trying to figure out, you know, how do I advance this and how do I contribute to this? You know, and to me, I think it's always, you know, that's such an interesting part about science. And it's, you know, I think it's, you know, even for me still, and I imagine for you guys, it's, you know, it's like, it is very inspiring, but it's also just like very daunting, right? Because
Yeah.
you're just like,
Almost a little intimidating, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because all of these people have paved this way.
yeah.
And you're like, okay, now I'm supposed to go and create this new thing that people are supposed to be excited about.
It's like, it's quite comforting when all of your collaborators have the same question, because then you're thinking, okay, so we're all thinking about this one question, and so like all of our efforts can go towards this one question, and we can put our heads together, like I said, and take a look at this from every perspective that, you know, is available to us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I will also say that I've taken so many geology and mineralogy and earth material classes here at Utah Tech, but I have learned so much more in the field, and I've applied so much more in the field alongside my peers here at Utah Tech. And
our classes are great, though. Right?
Yes, our classes are great. Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Not with you leaving.
Yeah,
But the applied learning.
but yes, exactly. The applied learning. Let's exclude Dr. Ty's most recent Intro to Geology class. Let's exclude that. Those classes are great. But yeah, the applied learning is really what makes it stick for me as a student. And yeah, this really is like that stepping stone into that peeved reality, you know, that dang career field. But yeah, super cool.
But I mean, as we see, Dr. Ty is on the other side of it, right? You're in the real world and you're still able to go and do these things and you know, it's makes it feel less scary, like,
For sure.
oh, that's something that maybe you two could do in the future as well. You know, research is ongoing.
For sure.
Which is good. Yeah.
Yeah.
This isn't the end.
No.
Just
Which
the
is a good
beginning.
thing.
Well,
and a bad
depending
thing.
on how the next budget.
Okay, wow. That's fair. That's fair.
True. Yeah, Utah Tech sort of just drew me in because we're right in the middle. Like I said, this is like a lot of what we call roadside geology, which is like just the stuff you see, you know, as you're driving around town. They're like textbook examples of geology. They're amazing. And when I saw that, I was like, well, this is where I want to be. You know, I like to be surrounded I like to be surrounded by the things that I'm learning about, just because it helps me like apply myself better. And Utah Tech's whole slogan is active learning, active life.
Yeah.
So here I am.
And that
it's
applied
really nice.
research definitely assists that motto. You know,
absolutely
lifts it up.
Thank you for accepting my application.
Thank you, Dr. Ty.
You're welcome.
Dr. Ty.
I'm glad that I did.
Yeah. And I'm super grateful that I was able to go twice, you know. So yeah, the research office just has so many good resources and so many good places for them to send their students and to sort of push those students or encourage those students to further their career, whether that's academically or career-wise. And, you know, it really sets them up for that real world outside of school.
Reality. Scary place.
Oh yeah.
I think we give it too much power
Yeah.
when we call
Yeah.
it reality.
For sure.
I think we're living in reality
pretty
now.
real.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's
We're in
just
a simulation.
a concept.
Yeah. It's a concept.
It is a concept.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I probably have many more questions, but I think we covered a lot.
Yeah.
And
Do research.
Do
you learn
research.
a lot. I learned
Yes,
Spanish.
yes.
I learned Spanish through this.
Yeah.
Because we went to Argentina.
Yeah.
Dr. Tai speaks really good Spanish.
That's awesome.
I wouldn't say really.
Well,
good,
better than
but-
mine.
yeah, I
Oh, yeah,
speak a
better
little
than mine, too.
Spanglish, but nothing too
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out research office.
No, I just feel really lucky to be here and hear your guys' stories as well. I feel like I'm learning a lot, even just from the previous episode to now. Like, I don't know. I'm like, there really is so much out there. I'm a doc kind of gal. I love documentaries.
Oh, nice.
I love
Yeah.
learning about the most random things all of the time. I've got like
Nice.
200 interests. But yeah, it's so cool hearing about the zircon.
Yeah. The zircon.
Yeah.
I'm stuck
Specifically
on
the
it. I think
zircon.
it's a name. It's a cool name.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
a cool mineral.
Yeah.
Insert zircon.
Yeah, I'm
Here
just gonna
in
like
post.
put a
Yeah,
zircon
right, right.
graphic,
Yeah.
like just flashing it. Well, alrighty.
Well, thanks for having us,
Yes,
Amy.
Yes,
I
thank you
think.
for having us.
Okay, I'm gonna do like a little outro as
Oh.
well. I'm like, sorry, I was making sure it was on. It was like flashing. Well, thank you everyone for joining us for this episode of Campus Curiosity. We've really enjoyed having you guys, and safe travels out. Back out to Argentina if you're going out there again, or whatever field research you're on to next. But thanks. Bye. Woo, do research.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to Campus Curiosity.
Stay curious and join us next time as we share more research from Utah Tech University.